All right. Welcome back. This is our second or third attempt. We're going to give it a shot, guys. Welcome back to the Be the Best podcast, where we are clearly trying to be the best. This week, got a special guest, Ryan Young, former All-American attackman at the University of Maryland, joining Mike Sheeler
Youngstown.
and myself. Mike, kick it off.
We got Youngstown here with us. So I attempted to say a little bit earlier here, but wanted to kind of jump right in. We talked last week with some guys about that transition of going from being, a freshman to an upperclassman and looking up to those upperclassmen. For you coming in, starting as an attackman, which is awesome accomplishment. Usually you get to look up to some upperclassmen around you, but you had an all freshman starting attack that first year with Grant Catalino and Richie Spice, Travis Reed, right around you there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, coming in and that transition from high school to college lacrosse.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Hopefully we're figuring out some technical difficulties and this recording is actually going somewhere.
It says it's recording,
so let's just ride with it. But yeah, it was a cool experience just coming in. I wasn't expecting or thought that I should have had a role immediately. And next, I think one of the earlier weeks of practices, they had called the three of us and had us run out together. So we, it just kind of happened. And so it was a very cool experience. And I guess when you think about like just looking up to some upperclassmen, there were some great upperclassmen, attackmen, Danny Gallagher, Scotty Tompkins, Max Ritz was also on the team. Most importantly, Nick Ward, a fellow Long Island guy, right? So there were some upperclassmen that showed us the ropes on how to do the right things down play and attack. And then you got guys like Joe Sanowski, who was like the ultimate captain of captains. So it was pretty easy to kind of fall under their wings.
And I don't know if you saw Sino's pump-up speech to the.
I did. He might have broken his hand. I mean, if I hit a wall that hard, this hand would be in a cast. But it got the boys jacked up. That's what Sino does.
It worked.
He brings the best out of his guys. He's a true leader. And so when I was a freshman, got to look up to a guy like that, and he did a great job leading our team. And he's still a vocal alum too. So it's stay in close contact with him, which is
so. Ryan, what's that like? You show up on campus and you're having to dodge one of the greatest defensemen, in the game. What's that like?
It was kind of surreal because I'd watched him for so many years. And I think that I was more nervous and scared to go against him that like I performed I had so much adrenaline that I was able to keep up with him. But it took me a while to get used to. And I think I remember one of my first few practices, we were just warming up and I just went way too hard and I ended up I'd throw up in the garbage can. Dave was like, is this guy out of shape? What's going on here? Trying to keep up with everybody else. I have no idea what I'm doing. 18-year-old clown out here. But I think it's what Maryland does. It brings the best out of people. And then you adapt to what you got with you. But yeah, cool question. He was a beast.
Well, I think too, the culture has been a recurring theme here of that, be the best culture and really being embraced by the team. I actually remember my move-in day, I ran into you at Potbelly's.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I think you're on the team. Let's catch up, exchange numbers, and reached out for me and a couple other freshmen to come join you guys. I remember I got lost, and this is pre-maps on the phone, and I got lost pretty bad. And I'm sure you're like, what the hell is wrong with this kid? But worked out. But we playing together. We got that 2011 season where the new coaches, all new coaching staff. I guess you had Moran, but you came in with Copeland, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So kind of had a whole turnover from the coaching staff standpoint. How, in your words, I guess, how was that kind of experience coming into college for one group and working with another?
Yeah. It was good. It was great. You know, like my class came in and we had a pretty strong class. I think we were one of the top recruiting classes. A lot of players started or gave meaningful minutes from the second they stepped on campus. We did well. I think we sort of underperformed my junior year, but we, other 2 years, we were very close to making the Final Four. We thought it was the team that junior year. And then, so we had some success with Coach Cottle, and we felt like we were so close that we wanted to see it through with him. So there was the starting point was a little okay, how's this going to go? And then when Coach Tillman came on campus, I think that the numbers really speak for themselves, the success that he's had since that 2011 year. He goes through, even that year, there was so much adversity that we had to go through. We lost some games we shouldn't have. And, we had an away game in the playoffs. So Coach Tillman, he just does it makes it, I wouldn't say hard, but he asks and expects a lot out of you, and he just elevates everybody to be the best of themselves on and off the field. So, a little bit of growing pains to start, and we couldn't have been happier to have him. ACC champions. We made it all the way to the championship game, and it's been such a pleasure to be a Terp alum since graduating. It feels like every single year, it's not every single one, but for the majority of them, we're fighting for a national championship, and it just makes you're really proud to just kind of be in town and rock some of the gear and be able to tell people that you played there. So it was cool.
When you go back to that time period, the transition, so you're recruited out of Manhasset, under Coach Cottle, you come in, you start as a freshman, and Coach Tillman has talked about how the cupboard was really left full when he got there, right? It wasn't like he came in and there was some rebuild. Like, as you had said, there great recruiting by Coach Cottle coming in, and just the misses, right? Like not getting over the hump. When that transition happened, if you can take us back a little bit, how shocking was it, that transition? But also, Coach Tillman coming out of Harvard, it wasn't, great reputation as an offensive coordinator at Navy. I'm sure there was a ton of familiarity there. But, his time at Harvard, he inherited a program that really needed an overhaul.
Yeah.
Basically, he's kind of like a 500 coach, but at the time at Harvard, that's a big deal. What was the impression you all had, even in the search process of what's going on here and who's the new coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're on the team. We weren't really involved. Maybe there were some guys that were involved, given some opinions on who was even interviewing. I certainly wasn't. But Brian Phipps had just graduated, and the Phipps family they're synonymous with Maryland lacrosse. And so so he was a part of it. And when he first caught wind of kind of the direction we were going in, he had reached out to a number of us, and he was just like, this is a really big get for us. This is going to be huge for us. Culture in a good way. The core of the culture is not going to change, but it's going to change into just new expectations. And so we were very, we didn't know what to expect, but we were excited and we were jacked up. And I think that that's also just kind of part of the DNA of Maryland guys, is just being able to roll with the punches and make the best out of any situation. Luckily for us, we got one of the best coaches of all time to sort of lead us into that final year that we had on campus. And it was something we didn't really see coming. We didn't expect to lose to Notre Dame that year before, right? And so we're happy.
Well, I actually remember driving home and then getting a call midway through 95 from Phipps saying, get back here, we got a team meeting.
Right.
To go see that. And, Debbie Al came in and gave her comments. I think there's a couple guys shared their thoughts, probably unintentionally, but then she left 7 days later. And I remember thinking okay, what does that do to our process? How does this, change things?
Right.
And I remember running off of only what Phipps had said about Coach Till's for months, I think.
Yeah.
And the picture that they used for the announcement, that's all I had to run with, was
I
that
know.
picture of him yelling into Harvard. I remember looking at him and being like, he kind of looks like Nick Saban a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird.
Yeah. Send me that one. But yeah, I mean, couldn't have worked out better, right? Like it was a totally different operating system that we're used to. I think that me personally, Coach Kyle and I had an amazing relationship. It was he also expected the most out of all of us, but I think especially me on and off the field. And we sort of had this, it wasn't like now we're super friendly, but we weren't friendly, while I was on campus, but it was a mutual respect. And so
It's motivating, right? It's
motivating.
motivating.
It was. So I guess I say that because it was sad to see him go. I wanted to finish what we started, and the goal was always to win an ACC championship. More importantly, a national championship. And so there was a part of me that was like, "You're taking this opportunity for me." And then, Coach Tillis comes in, and we had a successful year.
Did some special stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I actually went back and looked at that schedule earlier today because obviously I knew you were coming here. We played UNC 3 times that season, and we only lost to them at home, I believe it was.
I hated that game.
Yeah.
Hated that game.
It's not a great one. But then first round of the ACCs, beat them 7-6 in the monsoon.
Yeah.
Down in Durham, then beat Duke at Duke for the championship. I still have a couple pieces of signage from the field there.
Nice.
Well, Ryan, you said you hated that game. Why? Like the minute Mike was like that home game, you're like, I hate that game. What happened?
I will tell you, Tony. I got my stick checked, and I guess it was like a millimeter too short. So I got a non-releasable penalty, and they wanted a run, and I had to use a completely different stick, so I couldn't use the head. So I was completely thrown off in that game, and it was. I guess I got to blame myself because I should have probably measured it, but I don't know. I think that their tape measure was messed up.
I mean, a millimeter, right? Like that's crazy.
It was not like I was getting too much of a competitive edge, but that's the real reason why I hated that game. And then we lost because not because of me, but I never really got in a groove, and I think it was hard for maybe some of the other folks too.
And then randomly in practice from then on, we would get a random drop your sticks here, go get your backups challenge.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Reason for that.
It is amazing though to go back and watch. Like to me, 2011 is not that long ago. Right?
I agree.
It doesn't
very
seem
much
very
agree.
long ago, right? But it is amazing to go back and to watch games from that era and see how much the game has changed.
Oh my God.
Right?
Couldn't agree more. Like I see some of these guys, like I think I saw I think it was our team too. It was like a behind the back shot into a rebound, a behind the back feed into a behind the back goal. And I was like, we never did that at all. We didn't even do that in practice. And now they make it look like it's like just totally nonchalant. They're doing things that I think the level has really gone up. Who knows how we would have all fared if we played in this day and age? Probably not very well.
We'd be on the end line.
Yeah.
I want to ask you.
Jay Carlson effect. That Jay Carlson effect. I remember him coming in, just doing a couple of those right off the bat. I'm like, this freshman better figure out that you don't do that. And then they figured out that that's just Jay Carlson doing Jay Carlson things. And he was the exception, but
I know Mike has a couple, other questions for you, but I was really, kind of preparing to have you on. I was looking up some of your, statistics and a lot of your accomplishments. You're still 22nd on the all-time Maryland scoring list, 163 points, number 9 all time in assists. You're tied with another kind of Terrapin great, Andrew Whipple. You guys played similar position. But what I also found fascinating, and I actually went and I had my calculator out and I was like checking some stuff. So you and Grant Catalino played all 4 years together, came in together, played 4 years together. The two of you, your combined point totals between the two of you, in terms of a duo, right? Two guys playing 4 years together, only trail Logan Wisnauskas and Jared Bernhardt for combined point totals of two teammates who played 4 years together.
Whoa. Sick.
And you
and
all
they had 4.5.
And they did, because they got that weird kind of COVID year happening. Like when you look at some of the stuff, it was weird. But you guys are ahead of another kind of, a duo, especially when I was growing up, you hear the name Mark Douglas and Rob Wartzberger, and you're like,
oh yeah,
those dudes could play. And your combined point total between the two of you is higher than them. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, man, you guys,
very cool.
Your numbers have held up, man. So what was it like playing with Grant?
Very cool stat. Thank you for looking that one up. I'm going to put that in the back pocket. And I will give Grant a lot of the credit for that. I played behind, so and offenses were just different then. There was a lot of possession control and movement and keep moving around and just kind of waiting for the defense to give you that one little edge. But so many of my points were just kind of dodge, move it, and then I'm just basically catching it and throwing it to Grant, and he's sniping it from far away. But so I got a lot of cheap ones off of that. He was an amazing player. He was a matchup problem. He was even better. He was just a really great guy on and off the field. And he was tough too. Guys would come at him. I think that the UNC, one of their defenders would come out with a wooden stick and try to bully him a little bit. So he could do it all. He could play with both hands. He was big. I wasn't very fast, so I'll give him that. But yeah, he was an amazing player, amazing teammate, and I've got nothing but really, really good things to say about him. I wish we could play together again.
Mike, I know you had some questions.
I was gonna say, I actually remember staying after practice once before UNC with Catalino, and he's telling me just to keep hacking him, which is
Yeah.
As a scout team guy, you're I'm not supposed to injure you or anything that kind of thing. He's no, just keep hacking.
Just keep whacking on that arm. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
It was fun. And when you bring up Catalino and UNC, I just think about him and Farrell doing the hidden ball.
I was about to say, doing that at their place. I think that was a 13-6 win or something like that.
Yeah.
And talking about kind of games we lost that we shouldn't have. We just lost to Colgate the week prior, which sent us on the road.
Yeah.
But I think also kind of sparked us of this is not
so I
take
think
everything.
That Colgate game, Joe Cummings and Grant Catalino, our two best offensive players, both broke a hand in the ACC championship. They played through it because they're Terps. But so we walked into this game on senior day thinking, all right, we should be able to handle Colgate. And we learned the hard way. It was a good humbling moment before we went into the playoffs, but not to spend it too much time there. Yeah. Moving on.
I think that spurred the UNC dominance, that fake flip that's still shown in highlights today, which is awesome.
So
and
was Peter Baum on Colgate then, or
yeah, he was on that team?
Was he a younger player, or was he in
a sophomore?
I think he won the Tewarton the next year.
Okay,
so he was maybe a junior, junior or sophomore. He was a good player.
He was my year. I don't remember which year he won the
2011 group chat. Still top the text about Colgate being the best team of all time. That Colgate team. It's a kind of running joke.
I was gonna say that senior class. Talk about that senior day too. Was a pretty amazing group of guys. 17 seniors. Catalino, Reed, Dan Burns, Eric Boyle, Bob Kircher, Max Schmidt, Mike White, Mark White, Scott LaRue, Justin Bly, Fran, Shane Hall, Bolander, Farrell, Hansen, Brett Schmidt.
Jeez.
I mean, that's just an insane group. And also, I think to talking about the culture, that group text, I've heard a ton about the group text. So I know it's still firing. And everybody staying as close, I think is kind of a testament to that brotherhood of the team, right?
Yeah.
organizing 17 dudes in a group.
Yeah, no, it was a really good class. A lot of great players, a lot of huge characters on and off the field. And the thing that was most special about that class is that everyone like genuinely enjoyed each other's company, which is really hard. I mean, lacrosse, playing at Maryland and playing anywhere, you're spending a lot of time with people. It's like a competitive nature too, that you're going head to head with them every day. And so I think we found this unique like spot where we were able to be each other's biggest fans, while also like being as competitive as we possibly could be. And so I think that team, we went through a lot together, and it was just that senior class was absurd.
We got to also bring up that there was the mansion where like 14 or 11, how many people all lived in the same house too.
I think it was some crazy number, like 13 or 14.
It was insane.
So clearly not a Knox box, like clearly somewhere else around that campus.
Yeah, it was like the end of College Avenue, like all the way down as far as it goes. It was like near the metro.
A duplex that we just kept all the doors open, so everybody moved throughout.
Yeah,
but
so Mike, it was interesting when you were reading off the list of seniors there for that class. A couple of those names, when the PLL debuted, a couple of those guys were still playing at a high level in the PLL, right? Like they wanted to make sure that they were part of that new professional league, and a couple of those guys kept playing. So that's amazing.
Yeah, well, I think also throw in Drew Snyder, who was kind of in that class in red shirt as well, just to keep adding to that amazing class, and talk about somebody who's had a phenomenal professional career. He's been awesome, and a survivor of the mansion as well.
Yeah,
Ryan, I did want to ask as well. You have an on the field legacy and an off the field legacy as well. And, if you're comfortable talking about that off the field legacy, something that you lived through and your family lived through, but that became part of that team and even into the future, right? Like the legacy of your mother is still carried forward through the program. And every year the players are still wearing that color, that purple, with the number. If you feel comfortable talking about that's also a really, really, big thread that goes through a lot of the Tillman era.
Totally. Yeah, no, it was such an honor to be with the Maryland team, right? That I think those seniors, especially, like they've sort of been with me from, when I learned about the start of her battle with cancer my freshman year. So like they were always like kind of with me throughout the fight there. And it was, to be honest, I leaned on them so much throughout like the hard times where I couldn't be home to like support how I'd like to. And, it was easy for me to kind of like stay tunnel vision onto something that like meant so much to me and to my mom too, and to my whole family. And so, just getting through a very tough time, like the Maryland brotherhood and family and the culture was just massive. And I think like what Coach Tillman does to this day with the purple lines, it's so special. And, my family is beyond honored to, see some stuff like that. My two brothers actually played at Duke, and they are like diehard Tillman fans. They love the Terps, and it's not just because of that, but it's just a testament to how classy Coach Tillman is. And so hopefully that was an okay answer. I probably can go on.
No, man, and I mean I'll ignore the Duke. I'll ignore the Duke piece of that. Like Mike, we got a recording now. We can edit that Duke piece out.
Well, I do want to bring up the 2011 run. We beat Duke in the ACC championship and the Final Four. So we can bring it up.
We can totally bring it up. It was like, it was that was Easter Sunday when we beat them. And my twin brother was obviously on the team. My older brother was across the stands, like on the fence. And I picked up ball went out of bounds, and I like picked it up right in front of him, and he was just like going nuts for Maryland. And I'll never forget that as like a core memory of like this alum whose other brother's playing in the same game, and he's like couldn't be more excited to be a Maryland fan, and just the tribute that the team gave to her and to me and to our family that year with the Forever Young stuff. It was really special. It stays with me to this day. And, my guys in my class will be like, they'll go for a run or something, or I'll see a picture of someone and they're wearing the shirt, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is, they say you die two deaths. The first time is when you die, and the second time is the last time anyone says your name. And so to have that, like, I think that's just the coolest thing ever, that this keeps going and her name keeps being said, and it keeps that alive. It keeps her alive.
No
And I just think that's the coolest thing ever. So every time they do it, I'm like, man, that's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
We did a lot of some of the walks every year for the first couple of years afterwards, and it was again, Coach Tillman's just, he's first class in everything that he does, and huge shout out to him and the team, and honestly to all the alums. If anybody's watching this, like, shout out to you guys for the support over those tough years.
We've been talking a lot about culture. We talk a lot about culture on this because, Maryland lacrosse has such a strong culture. And that culture is probably being tested right now, right? And so, I want to kind of transition into, I got two former players here, both played at a high level and have seen greatness and know what it is. And your understanding of the game, I think, is part of why people like to watch our podcast so far, is they like to hear about like your takes and perspectives. Mike's not going to let me give too many of my opinions, and that's cool because you guys know more about lacrosse than I do. I mean, Mike, do I kick it over to you to talk about what happened on Saturday?
we can. I will say it's kind of funny, where I'm not sure, Young, if you feel the same way, but despite not playing for over 10 years, I still can't watch the game without thinking of Tillman talking to us in film of his little Tillmanisms. And when I see a 10-man ride, I just am not thrilled. Worried about the week of practice, but still watching this game. I think obviously there was the shots on goal issue. We got it was pretty close overall shots, but if we're not putting them on cage, every goalie looks fantastic when you're not testing them. And it looked a little bit like there was some just communication stuff felt kind of off, both on offense and defense. But I think I saw a little bit of zone out of us as well, which was, not sure I've seen a Maryland defense ever run zone.
Doesn't happen often.
There was a couple opportunities where we weren't doing it great, so I'm not sure I'm thrilled to want to see it again. Personally, again, I've said it before, my bias is on playing zone because UNC always played a zone. I hated running it, hated playing it, hated scouting it, all of that stuff. But again, that's just me as a fan.
So Mike, I got a question for you. I got a question for you about defensive schemes, but Ryan, I also want to then overlay kind of more of an offensive perspective. And it's about how the last couple teams have played Maryland's offense, right? And when you're up high enough in the stadium, you can see how compacted some of these defenses have become and how quickly they're sliding to any kind of Maryland leverage, right? So Mike, like I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about how you see some of these defenses approaching Maryland. And Ryan, I want to then ask your opinion about how you beat that.
Yeah, so it seems like they're doing a pretty decent job of rotating around on the slides and the second slides, which is usually where we could take advantage of it, right? It was big thing was dodge, move it to, redodge. And it seems like we're kind of almost still going through that practice routine of like, okay, let's go, as Young kind of mentioned, how our offense would be with the motions of everything, is walk through all the motions, rep all the different scenarios out versus kind of turning that corner to the cage a couple times. But I think what doesn't help with some of that too is if we're not putting those, again, the shots on goal, there's a little bit of a confidence thing too of doing that, right? Because you don't want to be the guy who turns the ball over and gives them all the different opportunities there. But we've talked about it too. Notre Dame's defense was good, so it's not any shocker there. But it felt like they just rotated well, slid well, and recovered pretty quickly.
Yeah, Ryan. And so the question I have for you, Maryland puts up 40 shots, they get 15 on goal. Right. But again, things look so compacted. It looked like there was no room to dodge. So my question for you is at what yardage do you need to start hitting from to draw a defense out, right? Like if they're going to be so compacted, there's no skip pass lanes. I don't know how anyone gets any kind of room, especially, Princeton did it. Syracuse was doing it. Notre Dame was doing it. Didn't seem like there was really any room to even dodge, even if you'd gotten kind of a one-on-one leverage. When you're in that kind of situation as an offensive player, how far out do you got to start bombing from? How do you get defenses to extend?
Yeah, it's a good question. I never had that much range, so I can't say from experience.
Just throwing it to Grant.
Yeah, exactly. Grant, Travis, and some of these other guys. But yeah, I think that like this team, the talent is there. They obviously can shoot. They're probably some of the best shooters in the whole world. Yeah. And so, I don't know if I've got the perfect answer for you. I guess where I'm sort of leaning to is just like this team just needs to stay kind of tunnel vision and keep doing what they're doing and not like forget about what happened in the past. Kind of lean on their training, and they've got the best coaching staff in the country without a doubt. Mike Phipps running any offense is going to be a good offense. And so I guess short answer of your question, 10 yards. Long answer, keep doing what you're doing, guys.
Yeah, just playing loose and playing lacrosse, I feel like at a certain point, because there's the pregame motivational comment every time from Coach Frosty to fall back on your training and do your thing here. And
you're using Coach Frosty, and the rest of the non-team world won't know who that is.
That's fair. Coach John Stainbrook,
legend.
Who was, is always there, still watching the film the right way, calling out matchups and everything. But I was a volunteer assistant for forever. Was really good at doing some good defensive drills where he would give 110% on his example as a walkthrough and just crack on wrists full speed. But his big thing every pregame was fall back on your training, and these guys are great. Like, I'm not discrediting that they're shooting at all, just for the record here. But these guys can play. They just need to let loose, and you play loose and have fun.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be interesting, right? Because, Eric Spanos was a game time decision against Notre Dame. You got to think the chances of him 5-6 days later playing against UD. Not that we condone gambling here on the Be the Best broadcast, on the Be the Best podcast. Maryland's a 10-goal favorite against UD. So, you got to kind of figure you're probably not going to see Spanos. Probably just want to rest him, right? Yeah. And so there's going to be more lineup shuffling happening. I kind of just was curious, Ryan, as that offensive guy, like, when it comes time to shoot and you're at 10-12, is it really just about rhythm? Is it really just about seeing white and just trying to hit white? Like,
I think so. Yeah, you just got to get in the groove. I think that, this team is just on the cusp of getting into that groove. What a gauntlet of a schedule too, and so much expectation going into the season, right? They've been so close the last couple of years, and they're preseason number one. And then, you bring back a good portion of that offense. You also bring in these recruits. And so there's a lot of pressure, and you couple that with just everything that comes with Maryland lacrosse. It's hard to like get to 10 yards and miss and not feel, kind of tighten up a little bit. And so I think, I think they're going to get there. And again, like Coach Phipps, he'll get the boys dialed. And I still feel very bullish on the outcome of this season, right? The talent is there, the coaching is there. Like, it's just, things just need to bounce our way. And I think that we're going to be in good shape.
Well, look, before we let you get going, Mike's got a send-off question for you about Long Island.
I'll add two little pieces real quick to that as well. I think in the locker room too, is these different, the quick Kesnicks and the conspiracy theories of what's wrong in College Park type of thing get written. I know from us in the locker room, it was always we kind of loved it as motivation and all of that. It is, it's just us. We've got each other and that kind of stuff, and let's go prove everybody wrong. So we almost didn't love being so highly ranked because it was kind of like people weren't saying bad stuff about us.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that a little bit for a little bit of a fire in the locker room. I will say I texted you, Tony, specifically at about 2 minutes left in that third quarter, and I said we're going to find out what this team's made of these next 17 minutes, which Larkin then immediately scores a goal. I went back and rewatched it. Schaller is running a 80-yard dead sprint in front of him. We're running a 2-pole fast break, which, X's and O's kind of thing. You don't really want 2 long poles running on your fast break, especially when you're close defenseman. But I think we saw a lot of what those guys, have in them after that, because I think we went like a 4.
I mean, Ryan, did you notice he just had to work in the 2 long poles? Like, always a defenseman, always a deep guy.
Right there, it's like
if they're making it that far, we're going to highlight it, and you can't edit me later, so deal with it. Just happy the microphone works here. But after I wanted to quickly wrap up on that piece, but jump into this last question here for you, Youngstown here. This was actually courtesy of Mike Earhart threw this one in here, asking for your top 5 Long Island Terps of all time.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Ryan Young. Okay.
No, I can't. No, I won't put myself up there. It's got to be Earhart up there. Frank Urso has got to, he's won on Mount Rushmore. And then got to be Nick Ward, just a culture carrier,
big culture guy,
ultimate Terp, great player. That's 3.
Strong Island accent too.
Yeah, man, the best of them. And then like Ryan Clark, another Long Island boy, stud, and then either like I don't know, Pasavia or Howley was a great defender too.
Chris Pasavia is a good one.
Yeah, there are a lot of Long Island Terps.
No Channy though. No Channy on the top 5.
Oh, you know what? I didn't overlap with him, and I totally forgot. So yeah, maybe I'll.
Nah, no, I'm just kidding.
He's 6.
Too funny.
Well, Ryan, man, thank you so much for your time and apologies on our end for our.
Please, guys, I'm happy to be here with you. Thanks for doing what you're doing for the program, bringing awareness. I truly think we're going to turn it around. We're going to get on a crazy run, and we're going to, who knows? Maybe we'll look back at this podcast as the igniting moment of our team.
Yes,
these tech issues, the lack of live stream because of who knows what is what turned this whole thing around.
I think so. Put us on the 30 for 30.
What happens when 3 people can't run a streaming platform? Man, Ryan, take care. Wonderful to see you on here.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people on the Inside Maryland Sports board were excited to be able to see and hear you talk. So you definitely still got you made an impact that a lot of people still remember seeing you on the field and doing the stuff you did. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you got it, guys. See you soon.
Nice seeing you.
Bye.
I give him so much credit for hanging with us, Mike.
Agreed. That was not the easiest of easiest of moments to keep up with, but
Well, we
found a
we
way.
we persevered. We persevered. All right. So we can put the Notre Dame, game to rest. I mean, for me it's in isolation, any of these games, you can say, you're up at the Dome, you're down
Yeah.
1 to Princeton. The thing that about the Notre Dame game that I'm going to be watching for now moving ahead. And Coach Tillman was pretty direct about kind of 2 things in his press conference. So I'm not saying anything that he didn't say himself.
I'm not gonna yell at you.
No, he might. But the first was, they've got some chemistry issues on the field that they're really trying to figure out who plays best with who. And he talked about really needing to figure that out. And the second thing he was really clear about, and it's related, is he was like, if that means lineup changes, that means lineup changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to be looking to see, against UD. Look, they're just guessing about Spanos. Is there really a need to see him play against UD? Probably not. So if we just say, hey, he's probably not going to be playing this week, he's probably not going to be playing this week. But there's going to be lineup changes from that. But I'm wondering if there might be some players moving from different parts of the field, guys moving from midfield to attack. Does Matt Higgins drop down to play attack? Do they run or sit through the box? I think those kinds of things. And then also, I wonder how much more shuffling we're going to see of those midfield lineups. I think the defense played. That 7-goal run's never easy, but it wasn't like the offense wasn't helping. But the defense statistically played a lot better against Notre Dame. So, maybe you're starting to see a little more gelling there. And it's going to be interesting to see how they come out mentally on Friday night.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they come out fired up for Friday night, especially. I think this week is essentially let's have a bunch of those changes that are going to kind of happen, like you said, with lineups, mixing some stuff up, and we should, right? Let's try a couple different things, because if you look at a bunch of our championship runs, we are changing things up, right? Part of some of our advantages, we're mixing the midfielders up. Urksa was coming out of the box a couple of years ago, more so because he had the injury in the Big Ten tournament. But still, that really changes things up here, and we can be so fluid that why not? I think this week we get to see, for those guys mentally doing the different changes. Friday coming out, hopefully executing really well with that, to be able to prove kind of to themselves at a point that, okay, we got something, and we can be relaxed and play our game. And then the week after, we've got UVA, and we shouldn't be looking ahead. I'll put that quick note out there. But if we come out and execute well in that game, and I think win pretty handily there, we're the most dangerous team in NCAA lacrosse, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah. And for as much as, especially someone like me, always likes to get fired up at guys like Quint, when he released his little top 20 this week, it wasn't like he really dropped Maryland too far. So it doesn't seem like a lot of the intelligentsia around the media are really selling Maryland at this point. And I think it goes to the fact that, you got the best coaching staff in the country, and there's a ton of talent on that team. There's just so much talent that, you think it has to click at some point, right? It has to click.
Well, I think it also goes to prove, as much as a lot of those kind of pundits like to say things that, as Maryland fans, we don't always celebrate, we'll say nicely. It goes to prove that they have that respect there for this team, right? They know it's there. They may not always talk that way, but they know what's capable of these guys in that locker room. And we've said it many times, but I think that goes to prove it. Just was it Princeton when they lost to Penn State, flew down the rankings, which,
Yep.
as we said, was not correct, but it is kind of a testament to their respect for these guys too, that we didn't. Not that those rankings really mean much, but still.
Right. Well, I'm not really sure we got to preview the Delaware game much, right? Like, you got a team that's in Delaware, historically a strong program. Last year, it looks like this year so far, they're just really struggling. Kind of any metrics you're looking at, whether it's their offense, their defense, their face-offs, they're not playing super well. There's going to be some zone. They jump in and out of the zone when they're in trouble on defense. Henry Dodge is approaching 70% again now on his season win total from the faceoff X, and Jonah Carrier's approaching 60%. You got to figure Maryland's going to get a lot of possessions. Delaware is bottom 10 or 12 in turnovers. So if they're not winning possessions and they're giving the ball back, I don't want to say this is a get healthy game for Maryland, because I don't think that's what it's about. I don't think it's about getting healthy. I think it's about figuring out continuity and those things. And this game is probably more about Maryland, right?
Absolutely. And I think that aspect of what you're saying is essentially for the guys proving it to themselves when we're playing a different color jersey, that the changes we're making and the adjustments we're making are the right ones. And then again, like I said, having them do something similar the week after, probably not at that same scale, but hopefully doing something of that same nature only pours gas on the fire, in my opinion.
Right.
So I think it's a confidence builder of let's get better at playing Maryland ball.
Right.
And
since you mentioned the following week, let's kind of recap, because that UVA team, I didn't look to see. I did look to see who they're playing this week, but this coming week. But last week they had about as brutal of a beat as you can get. They lose at home to Hopkins 14-13 after being up 11-4 with about 9 minutes left in the third quarter.
Which is actually when I turned it off.
You were just like, it's done, right? Right.
Well, that and I was at a dinner, so I couldn't keep watching, but I figured at that point.
Well, Hopkins starts their run on a junk goal. UVA goalie makes a save, but loses a stick. I don't think I've ever seen a goalie. He makes a save, and I don't know if he hit the bottom of his shaft on the ground, and the thing like popped forward. It ended up like 4 yards out of the crease, and he's standing there, and a Hopkins player, I think it was Jimmy Ayers, I don't know if he kicked it or like golf swatted the ball in the goal. 11-5, and all of a sudden Hopkins is off. They score 10 of the last 12 goals of the game and beat UVA. And you got to wonder what that does to the confidence down there in Charlottesville.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not a fun locker room to be in afterwards, or on Monday, I would say. But I do think they're going to be able to rebound. I think Tuesday, Thursday is going to be okay. That sucked, but that was last week. It's time to move on. I'm not sure who they've got on the schedule this week. I think they actually have a game today, don't they? Or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure one of us could look it up. Like, we are at computers, but I'm so afraid to do anything on my computer.
So they played High Point today.
Okay.
They won 14-7. I got my phone running here underneath my notes because it's whatever device works at the moment.
Exactly.
For the moment. And then they got Towson on Saturday at home, it looks like.
That's a sneaky game, isn't it? Towson. That's a sneaky game.
Well, I don't want to get too far ahead here, but the Towson Loyola game this weekend is an interesting one from a prediction standpoint too. But same with the Virginia side. I think they've got, as we know, a lot of talent, and they have kind of that ability to all of a sudden, score in bunches and put up a ton of points. And it just feels like at some points they kind of run into, I don't know if it's kind of self-inflicted issues that are slowing them down or something, but it feels like they're not playing to their potential. And that almost kind of concerns me a little bit at the same rate if they can do so much and haven't yet. I always, don't want it to be the game they figure that out is against us, especially going back to, Young and I both playing in ACC days. We have a little bit more strong feelings towards them, but I mean, I got my ACC ring in the background here.
There you go.
Yeah, but
yeah, it's an interesting setup down there in Charlottesville, and again, no one recruits better. Maybe Joe Bresci down at Carolina does, but that team down in Charlottesville is just stacked with talent. And watching parts of that game, it was almost sort of like, in a way, watching a bit of the Maryland Notre Dame game, in that Hopkins early wasn't getting shots on Morris in cage. They just weren't getting shots on him. And once they started getting shots on him, good things happened. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of Maryland, that, man, if Maryland gets 5 more shots on goal, if they just,
it's a much different conversation.
If they just get 50% on goal, that's it. Just get 50% on goal. And make Notre Dame's goalie make some saves, probably better things start happening. And so it was interesting kind of watching that game afterwards, after the Maryland game. It was like, man, look what happens when Hopkins just starts getting shots on goal and they start going in. Hopkins is an interesting team in general. I find, because
real quick, Tony, I'm curious, in your opinion, is that more of a testament to Hopkins shooters or to their Virginia's goalie handling the shots?
The thing that stood out most to me, and it's something I asked you and Ryan both about, the thing that I noticed first watching the Hopkins UVA game was how much green grass there was everywhere. There was so much space all over the field. And maybe it's just because I've got such a Maryland blinders. I spend so much time just looking from the press box down at what's happening. Like, Maryland never seems to get that kind of space. Hopkins scored a ton of goals on time and room shots, 10 plus yards, even out to 15. Hunter Chavette, I think, scored 6 goals, and 4 of them were probably 10, 12 yard shots. He was shooting around screens a lot of times. And that was happening. Like, they were just stretching that defense so much. And I'm not sure that UVA's goalie, I mean, he's had ups and downs his whole career.
Right.
So I don't know.
It was interesting. You asked Young the same question as far as distance-wise, what you want to be shooting. And it is interesting with the evolution of the game, where it used to be, we want to be about 10 to 12 yards ideally. And if we're shooting at 15, you're going to hear about it, especially if you don't hit that shot. And then now with the quality of shooters in the game, 14, 15 is not a terrible shot. The Larkin goal in particular, I can remember top of mind, was at 14. Yeah. Where if you did that as a fast break with a pole, if you didn't hit that thing, even if you did, you'd still hear, take 2 more steps.
Leo Johnson hit one on a skip pass early from Higgins. He was about 12 or 13. Stovall, he's always on the move, it seems, when he shoots. He doesn't seem like a kind of a step down kind of shooter. He seems more of like he's going to generate so much energy off of movement when he shoots. But he's taking those shots 10 to 12 yards on the move. Right. But everyone else seemed more hesitant to let those fly.
Yeah, and again, it's you want the best shot and not the first shot at the end of the day. But there's the other side of, we still need a shot on goal. Yeah. Right? That's that kind of balance to figure out. But I was thinking with Stovall's shooting form is something that sparks joy with that, a little bit like the Chin and Chuck shooting. It's not the same style, but it's just sort of the way he shoots is just like makes me happy. I like seeing him shoot lefty down the alley.
Well, it's it's funny because I've seen Chin and Chuck on YouTube talking about being able to hide his stick. And that's what I always like. It's that same thing. You're right. That like when Snowball is winding up, he's hiding his stick so well. And like good luck to any goalie stepping in front of that 90 plus mile an hour, shot. It's just unreal.
Yeah.
It's unreal. It's going to be interesting because I think there are some other guys on the team. Spencer Ford can really stretch a defense. It'll be interesting to see if he maybe starts to test that a little bit. So far he's just been scoring in the crease, but he's another guy that can really let a shot go.
Well, the other side of that too is if defenses have to keep crashing down on him, he's opening it up for guys on the outside. And as we start, canning a couple of those, they're going to have to extend back out to them, which opens it right back up for Spencer Ford, or whoever's inside. I think that's a little bit of that back and forth. And so watching some of the other games, some of my other homework for this, I was watching some of the offenses. It seemed a little bit more of, I remember hearing one of the interviews from the USA hockey game was the east-west passing. It felt like there was a lot more skip passes to set up those timing rooms, getting the goalie moving, getting the defense moving. And for us, it seemed we weren't getting as many. Maybe that's because they were as compact, so sticks were in the lane. It was tougher to do. But it did seem like, the skip pass situation, getting the defense moving again, it was a big thing that we've done in the past. I know we can do, just wasn't happening against Notre Dame. Could have been how Notre Dame was also playing it that triggers that. I don't want to say it wasn't a good thing on Notre Dame's part there too. But
so a couple other games, and last week we actually we were kind of picking games here, right? And I think we both thought Richmond might. I know I thought Richmond was going to knock off Cornell, and they did 8-7. Again, kind of an interesting game. Cornell gets up 3. They're kind of up 3 for the majority of the second into the third quarter, and all of a sudden UR just starts kind of chipping away, one goal at a time, and really frustrating Cornell. Now Cornell was missing. They have a 5-star freshman attackman. He Rowan Nuri, I think is his name.
I avoid pronouncing the names. I leave that.
Yeah, you're like number 5. He's number 5.
Yeah, that guy.
He didn't play, and Richmond turned that game into their style, right? Low scoring, took advantage of their defensive midfield being just really, really good, but also their defensive midfield, they got a couple guys that can stay on the field and create offense. And that's what really got them going. They score a goal with about a minute left in the game to go up. And I don't think Cornell even got a shot on goal the rest of the game.
Well, how do you create those different mismatches, right? And part of Richmond's advantage, like you said, there is the D middies who can play offense, which is a rare breed. And D mids mostly know that too. But having that setup where you get their attack or offensive middies who, in a way, are basically attackmen trying to play defense, that's a great way to play it. And I think Richmond's special in the sense that they can slow it down and play and grind it out. They can also run with you. They can be high scoring. They can play a lot of different ways, and they can adjust to who they're playing and find those weaknesses and capitalize on them, really. So I think they're a very dangerous team, and obviously they're not titled as a blue blood, but
well, let me ask you then, do you think Richmond is a Memorial Day team?
Yes, absolutely. I think they should have been last year.
They would have helped us out if they'd beaten Cornell.
I wouldn't have minded, but I think they were a number 5 technically because they weren't there actually, but I feel like they should have been. And so coming into this year, I was pretty, aware when they were getting some rankings and everybody who comments on the social media posts of why are they where they are. So they're going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So ACC and Ivy did their crossover thing. Syracuse really lost an uncompetitive game to Princeton on Friday. Princeton was up 7-0 before anyone could do anything, and then just kind of grinds the game out. And then Syracuse goes down to Penn the next day, who had lost a 2-goal game to UNC, and wins an overtime game where Penn had gotten up by 2 goals. It's 8-6, and then Penn just couldn't score the rest of the game, and they lose that game in overtime. But the game that I was going to ask you about was the Princeton North Carolina game on Sunday.
Yeah, it looked like two really good offenses going at it. I feel like UNC, again, another team that's got a lot of talent and can just go and score in bunches, and then sometimes just doesn't for some reason. But when they're working and everything's clicking, they are a really good offense to watch. I thought it was interesting watching the Princeton offense a little bit. I realized I really enjoyed watching them, especially because they weren't playing us. When that's happening, they're a fun offense to watch. They do a great job, like I said, off ball. They're awesome. Their 2-man game it's not as much of a box style
Mhm.
as it kind of would seem, but it's just very fluid and a really well run offense. At the end of the day, they're great at getting their shots, and it was fun to watch for a lacrosse purist kind of perspective here too. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to watch those kind of offenses battle, even though it wasn't really a shootout either.
Yeah. And on 2 days rest, right? Or 36 hours rest, essentially. What I kind of found fascinating was, even though there were times I think UNC might have gone up early or might have tied it kind of early, I always felt like Princeton was in control of that entire game. It never actually seemed like UNC was threatening. Again, they might have gone up by a goal super early. They did tie it, I think, a couple times, but it just never seemed like Princeton was flustered. It never seemed like they were worried. They just kept playing the way that they were playing. Colin Burns, I think he had 4 goals, maybe. He's nominally their crease guy, and he scored a couple goals dodging. And Nate Kabiri is just such a good player. He's just such a good player. He's such a slick player to watch, right?
Yeah.
A lot of fun. But the other interesting thing about that game, Ryan Craddock had like 26 saves. Like 26 saves. Like, whoa.
But a little to what you're saying is it felt like Princeton was playing Princeton, and then UNC was not playing their game, but were staying in it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is, from a player standpoint, if you're not playing well and you're right there with them, that's a great feeling, because you realize that you can just start playing. It's not, flick of the wrist kind of thing, and all of a sudden it's all done. But you can get back to playing your game, and you're in a great spot. You're not playing from behind too far. But Princeton was almost like a kind of Alabama football type of thing, where they didn't blow them out of the water, but they didn't keep it close. If that
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. It's interesting because we were just talking about, you and Ryan talking about how, if Maryland catches fire, if they can just get some confidence, and that's what you see in Princeton is exactly what you're talking about with Maryland. Princeton gets that win against Maryland, and all of a sudden, right, they believe, they're together.
It's that Princeton team that we saw in all the writings preseason.
Exactly. All right, let's look ahead. And so let's keep it with Princeton, since we were just talking 6-goal favorite at home. We're doing the Big Ten edition. All these games have Big Ten teams. Princeton is 6-goal favorite at home against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
I think I got to go Princeton. The 6-goal thing is what, and this is why we do the lines. It's not because we're degenerate gamblers here. It's just to make the picks more interesting. Than, yes, I think Princeton will beat Rutgers straight up. I still think Princeton will win by more than 6. Again, to what
Wow.
we were just saying, their offense and Rutgers feels kind of up and down to me.
Mhm.
Where if Princeton plays Princeton's game and makes Rutgers keep up with them, like you said, I thought it was hilarious. One of the goals, I can't remember which one of their attackmen did it, but he had a swim move that was a reasonable dodge. And the commentator said that he loves to do a swim move. A lot of times he doesn't need to. It's pretty unwarranted. But this time it mattered. It was just kind of felt like the best backhanded compliment to that guy about his swim move. But he still made it look good. I think Princeton's offense is kind of, like we said, catching fire a little bit there. Yeah, I think I'm going Princeton.
I think Princeton wins. I don't think they cover. That's a lot. Now, look, last year, I think every year I'm like, oh man, Rutgers is going to play Princeton tough. And
If it was at Rutgers, I think I have a different answer.
I mean, they play every year, and it just seems like, Rutgers in conference getting into a bunch of like 7-6 rock fights. I keep thinking that's what's going to happen. Rutgers has a really, really good defensive midfield and a great goalie, like a great goalie. And so I'm like, 6 goals, that's a lot. I don't think Rutgers has the offense to keep up. It's whether or not they can contain the Princeton offense.
I was going to say, it's more about the Princeton offense than it is against the Rutgers anything, really. I think Princeton's just getting confident and getting too catching fire.
Yeah. They got too much mojo. All right. In a bit of a surprise line, Penn State at home against Cornell, and Cornell is a 1.5-goal favorite coming off that loss to Richmond.
That one's tough.
I liked your pause. You're like,
I keep looking down because I've been looking at that game was the next one coming, and I'm not right. Again, it's at Penn State, has some of that advantage. I think Penn State's again one of those teams that can just catch fire quick, or they don't, which is how it seems this season. As usually,
they blasted Yale last week. Penn State blasted them.
Yeah, I think
so. Is it a letdown now? Right? Are they going to let down?
But I like to think that they're going to build on that. But Cornell also coming off the loss is going to be a little extra fired up. Here we go. I think I'm going to go with Penn State on this, unless that 5-star Cornell guy plays. Then Cornell covers.
He was in a walking boot reportedly, so you got to wonder, is he going to be back?
I'm also not actually betting on this game, so there's that.
No, I know. You're not putting your kids' college funds at risk here.
Well, I think I will call out Big Ten Plus this weekend, putting the name tag on Mitchell Lloyd as Eric Spanos, with him in a walking boot, scaring half of Terp Nation, thinking Spanos is in a walking boot.
Yeah,
and never really corrected that.
No.
They just kind of played it off later on when they actually put him on.
They're like, there he's in the sweatshirt now. Oh,
somehow he grew like a foot. Cut his mustache, or shaved his mustache. Took his boot off, so he must be fine now. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
I think Penn State wins. I think they cover. And my theme again with Cornell this year is how small they are. And with Nuri out at attack, Cornell's attack line is like 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", and their midfield is like 5'8", 5'9", like 5'10", and
sometimes that's tougher to guard though, right? Because you get the taller guys trying to guard down on a little smaller guys. It's a little bit tricky. Not always, but it doesn't change the. I'm not trying to say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I tend to look at that as like, I am not the world's tallest man, but I also I'm not a skinny guy either. A little harder for someone your height, 6'4" or whatever, to have to deal with someone like me who can kind of get more leverage into your body than Goldstein, who's 145 pounds. Now, there's the quickness issue. What was interesting about Richmond is Richmond's top close defender Hunter Smith did not match up on Goldstein. He actually took Willem Firth, which was kind of a fascinating change up that I would not have expected. What is it? I think it's Alex Ross. I think might be Penn State's top cover guy. I think he is a really, really good defenseman. I'm still, there's always the questions about whether or not a freshman goalie at Penn State going to have ups and downs. I just feel like Penn State is too big. I just think their size is just going to be a difference.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to win that game.
Fair enough. I mean, I picked Penn State too. I'm just.
Yeah. You just put devil's advocating me.
Well, I have a little, one of the guys I went against in club ball from, I don't know, 6th grade or something like that was a smaller guy. And I always hated guarding him in practice because he could just kind of bend underneath.
Yeah.
And just absorb every penalty possible. And you're like, what am I supposed to do here?
All right. Another interesting game, keeping in the Big Ten, Ohio State at home, two goal underdog at home against Notre Dame.
Yeah. They beat Georgetown last week by, was it 1 or 2?
1.
At Georgetown, which was surprising. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is, I think that makes this pick harder in my mind because having not watched them play much. Unfortunately, watching at least a full game of Notre Dame last week. I think I'm going to go Ohio State here.
To win or to cover?
Yes. I will say I did put some small bets in, and I may have already bet the other way, but I'm thinking Ohio State is, I think, more about it just with their defense and being able to do what they've done against some teams and keep scoring down. They're not, outscoring a lot of teams, but I think, I don't know, this is maybe just a competitor, maybe, but I feel like Notre Dame is beatable if you have the right game plan against them and execute it. And it looks like Ohio State's kind of doing that with their game plans against everybody else. So I'm gonna go for it.
And this is one of those revenge games too, because remember last year, Notre Dame's unseeded in the NCAA tournament. They go to 4th seeded Ohio State, I believe, and just steamrolled them, like non-competitive, like uncompetitive game. So Ohio State they're coming back to Columbus, back to the scene of the crime. Ohio State's going to want to play better. They're going to want to show better. Notre Dame really impressed me. I got to be honest. I knew their midfield was good. I think their midfield was really the difference in the game against Maryland, because their midfield was unrelenting the entire game. There was no let up at all, and they rolled a ton of midfielders out. Barron and Miller got goals at attack, but I think a lot of that was predicated on Maryland having a hard time containing wing dodgers and getting the ball spinning like that. So I was really impressed with Notre Dame's offensive midfield. They really, really impressed me, and they can beat you in a lot of ways. They got that kid Matt Jeffrey, who punt return clear. He's a football player, plays wide receiver. That guy can really move, but they got shooters, they got dodgers up top, they got guys who can invert, and they come in waves. So they really surprised me. But I'm kind of with you. I feel like this is a game that that Ohio State, that Nick Myers and Ohio State, they have circled, and they want to play their best against Notre Dame. And maybe Notre Dame's feeling themselves a little bit. They just won in College Park. Might be a natural spot for a little bit of a letdown. And I think Ohio State wins.
It's that number one, getting all the praise and kind of letting off the gas a little bit, having people appreciate you. But I actually wasn't even considering the revenge game aspect too at Ohio State. I was already giving them a little bit extra for being at home, but yeah, I think replicating that game, and it was kind of funny last year where everyone somehow was surprised that the NCAA wasn't overly reasonable in that setup. Like that caught anybody off guard. But yeah, I think, again, I haven't watched a lot of Ohio State, but I do think the Notre Dame aspect, you kind of mentioned it with the attackman who got some goals, but the teams at the end of the day don't care about who gets the goals. It's their score was 11. They don't care who put the 11 up there. And I think that's kind of one of the skewed stats that can be out there, right? With the our shots overall side by side was pretty reasonably close, but shots on goal were very different. And then where those shots are also makes a huge difference. So I think there's a lot of stats that can be kind of skewed, but I think that Notre Dame seemed, in my opinion, with knowing how good Ohio State defense can be and how they've executed, or at least based on the scores I'm seeing, I think Ohio State can make it work if they play to their game plan. And then the extra motivation, obviously. But did
I agree.
I think I was going to say I almost picked all Big Ten. Princeton.
I mean, you and I pretty much had the same picks here. Although I think Rutgers covers the 6. That's our only difference. But then you and I both picked Penn State. We both picked Ohio State. We must be Big Ten homers. I mean, the Big Ten needs some wins. They need some out of conference wins.
Yeah, partly. It was an unintentional selection here, but it also helps our schedule with those guys.
Exactly.
But
all right, Mike.
Yeah, well, I think our guys. I like our guys. I think we are still very dangerous as a team. I think the comments that are out there, obviously, as fans, we're always going to be the armchair quarterbacks. But what's happening in that locker room, I trust those guys. I know those guys are fired up to play and are going to make it work. Especially Tillman's coaching. I mean, name a better coach over the last 15 years and pick a scenario.
In any sport. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's
in any sport.
Better than what you can do in a video game kind of thing. So if there's, not that if there's anybody who can do it, I have all confidence that they will do it. It's just a matter by how much.
Right. All right, man. Well, we would not be this podcast if we did not have technical issues. We'll see if I can even get this posted on YouTube, man. But thanks.
This doesn't save recording wise.
Oh my God! I'm gonna throw myself out of this window right here. I mean, well, we'll be back next Tuesday.
Hopefully live.
Yes, hopefully live, and hopefully talking about a Maryland win. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.